Hey everyone, we're talking with an incredible fellow Canadian, Stephane, today. I could not put his book down. After the war, Surviving PTSD and Changing Mental Health Culture. Any of you who know me know that I am a total psychology nerd. And so I want to spend my off time, reading and better understanding what makes people tick. But here's the other reason why I couldn't put the book down, besides it being fabulous and well read. And your story is amazing, Stephane. It's that I'm seeing so many of my coaching clients that are trying to find solutions to helping people with mental health issues, their own mental health issues. And there are solutions that are really practical and frankly, not always the things that we're thinking about or we're doing in organization. Stephane, what are you seeing about what people are going through right now?
Well, I think the pandemic hit at a time where society, workplaces, organizations, governments had not yet realized that the mental health topic has been over medicalized.
Mm.
And we in our organization, I've come to this realization over 20 years ago, where I firmly believe that when you are suffering from a medical problem, there is a medical approach to this.
Mm-hmm.
However, mental health is on a wide spectrum, and it's not just about a medical diagnosis and a treatment process. Mental health problems occur over time, and people just don't know how to be, how to support, what to do, what to say, what not to say.
Yeah.
And therefore, our muscle memory is simply to refer to clinicians. And so I think one of the biggest problems we're faced right now is we need to start rapidly understanding how to no longer abdicate our responsibility to fellow coworkers, neighbors, families, and play an active role in supporting people well before they need clinical help.
Yeah. And so what can people do now, especially given how much more anxiety the average person's even talking about anxiety, given what we're going through right now? What can we do that would be even a little bit better than before, when we weren't really taking full responsibility of helping people?
Well, I think one of the instincts that people will have when facing someone who is struggling
Mm-hmm.
is to want to fix the problem. And
Totally.
that is absolutely not what Joe Q. Public or a person like me as a non-clinician can do. Even
Mhm.
clinicians might say, I can't fix the person. This is not a broken leg, right? The person has
Right.
to really work on this. And so that is the number one shift that has to occur. People, and Brene Brown, by the way, says it way better than I do when she says, it's not the words you say to somebody who is struggling that will help. It is the relationship of trust and empathy that you build with someone. That is what truly helps.
Mhm.
So you may not have solutions. Your presence helps. And recently, I got involved with somebody who's really struggling, and
Mm.
the family reached out to me, and I said, "Listen, I can't promise you that what I'm going to try is going to work, but I can promise you I'm going to try." And
Mhm.
when somebody listens and is there for somebody, and the presence, either virtual or not, is trying, it's connection. So we
Mhm.
undervalue human connections. I think that's the number one
100%.
take home, right?
Mhm. And that's where you and I are so on the same page. I mean, besides the fact that I've been very open about having had postpartum depression twice, some mood issues for me have even been creeping in during this time. I'm very hyper aware of watching how my kids, my husband, my parents are doing, because that's been a part of our world. For other people who haven't been there, I'm wondering if that's where Brene Brown talks about, you don't have to say, oh, that must be hard for you. When we've had the lived experience, when we lean in to try to understand people in our life who have experienced that, it's that much easier to be with people in their humanity. So what advice do you have for folks who truly haven't been through something like what somebody else is going through? Is there some kind of parallel human experience people can draw upon so that they can be with people in their
Yeah.
pain or their confusion?
I think so. I think everybody, I don't care who you are and how perfect you think your life is, at
Mm-hmm.
one point in your life, there was a point where things were not that great.
Yeah.
And you don't want to remember that to dwell on it or create a pity party around yourself to say, oh, poor me.
Right.
But going back to that moment, grounding yourself, remembering a little bit how you were at that point in time is essential, because that will probably steer you away from falling in the traps of judging the person.
Yes.
And because the minute judgment starts to be part of that relationship is starting to break down very quickly. People who are struggling from mental health problems have a real good judgment radar, and you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it, the tone of voice. And the minute that starts peering into the conversation, and so I think you need to really ground yourself and say, hey, I might be on the top of my game right now. Everything is well, but be humble. Go back to a time in your life, and I'm sure there are, where you say, you know what, those years were really tough for me. So perhaps this person is going through that period, right? And really lower those power differentials as far as how life is perfect, and suck it up and pull up your socks, and
Right.
these little things we say, that's not
This too
helpful.
shall pass, and
But it's
like
just
all the
exactly all those
minimizing things.
token things, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't really help. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It's not real. It's not connective. It's almost passive aggressive and dismissive.
It
And
is,
for
yeah.
those of you who are watching who have flip side of failing, that's actually, you may recall, what we found when we interviewed people about their greatness. It wasn't where they performed at their best. It was actually their obstacles and their roadblocks, their challenges that allowed them to be that allow them to, realize something that they didn't think was possible. So I so appreciate that advice, is to look for somewhere else that didn't go well and talk about being able to relate on a whole other level. I'm also curious about peer support, and is now the time, because again, those of you who pick up this book or you've read it, you'll see what a powerful message, the importance of peer and that shared humanity, shared experience. Should people be trying that right now when they're maybe a little overstretched? Is now the perfect time? Is now not the time? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, for years now, we've been trying to reduce the amount of effort organizations need to do to get into this modality of service to help employees or members of their organization and whatnot. And I think we've hit the sweet spot right now, where we have negotiated the distribution rights of an e-learning campaign from Australia. And it's the thing we've been looking for. We would have wished we could have done it ourselves, but we partnered with an organization. And what this e-learning campaign does is it allows an organization and everybody inside it to understand that it's okay to ask somebody, are you okay? And when the person says, no, I'm not walk away or look away or not know what to do, actually equipping somebody to continue the discussion in a non-awkward way. Those micro moments are very important. And I've compared it to an employee coming into a workplace, seeing another employee who has crutches. What would we do? We would probably open the door for that employee. That's very evident when there's a physical issue going on. It's not so evident when there's a mental health problem going on. And creating that ability in everyone to be able to figuratively open the door for somebody who's struggling and have that conversation creates that micro moment, which can be a game changer in preventing a small problem from becoming bigger. And so there are ways now. I would say, yes, there is. You don't need to implement a full program, but at the very least, if you give people those skills to have a conversation around the theme, are you okay, Sarah? And have a conversation around that and do something about it, is a precipitating moment for any organization.
I love that, Stephane, because it's part of this broader conversation we're having about opening doors.
Yeah,
So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, really, people, when we realized how few women were at boardroom tables and senior leadership tables, well, how do we open the door for women, or what's closing the door? When through the Black Lives Matter movement.
Correct.
Looking around, how many senior leaders are representative of our community? And do we have a bias of, a like me bias? And I think that it's the same with mental health, isn't it? When
Correct.
we have a low tolerance for people not being okay in general, not performing okay, not doing their work okay, not being able to have a failure because nobody's allowed to learn from failure, you have to hide failure. All of those things are symptoms that your culture may not support anybody not being okay, whether it's mental health or just even performance-wise. The more we can be okay with performance about wherever somebody's at, the more we can be okay with, we have a variety of strengths here, not just leaders have to fit this formula or do the job exactly this way. I think the more open we are to helping anybody with no matter what they're struggling with. Have you seen that in organizations that have leaned into this?
Oh, we have. Yeah. I mean, we have the luxury of working with all of our clients I think organizations, regardless on the size, will keep doing the same thing over and over again and wonder why their disability rates don't lower.
Right.
Disability costs keep increasing and all this. And it's mainly because they keep seeing these problems, perceiving and trying to resolve these problems purely from the clinical point of view.
Right.
Organizations who gravitate to our way of thinking maintain all of those robust, clinically driven services and add a layer of what we call social support, changing that culture of that organization where everybody in the organization is capable of now opening the door. Imagine if somebody can't open the door in the office and somebody says, hold on, I'll call 911 to come and help you. How useful is that? We don't do that in the physical injury space. We don't need a doctor to open somebody's door, but for some reason, people think from a mental health perspective, if you're not a doctor, you can't help. And so, yes, many organizations have come to that realization, turned the corner, and have made great strides and progress in not only impacting their bottom line, reducing disability rates, long-term disability, increasing EAP utilization, which is a good thing, by the way, right? Organizations pay top dollar for EAP services, which are all underutilized. And these are, for the most part, good services. And so once we're done with an organization, EAP utilization starts rising. Disability rates start dropping. Why? Because people are accessing the service that's already paid for. And all we do, Sarah, is we crowdsource the human benevolence that exists right now in the organization. Somehow, people are a little weary about drawing that. But you know what? There's a lot of skills in every organization capable of helping. We just bring it alive, bring it to life.
And what we measure matters. And so when we pay attention to our EAP utilization and our sick time and our absenteeism, those things matter. And we look at them from a solution-based lens, we can actually address it versus problem-based. And I liken it to coming from healthcare. Oftentimes, organizations that are very risk averse and like to think that everything's fine around here, they have very low reporting rates unless an incident becomes so serious they have to report it. However, what we know from the patient safety literature is that the number of times that near misses are reported and very low level incidents, the safer the organization. On the surface, the numbers are on the rise, but what we know from experience is numbers on the rise, to your point around EAP, is a good thing. It means that we can find out there's a problem, we can address it, we get on top of it easier. Same within the travel or airline industry. We only use
we learn from that. That's right.
Yeah. So I guess, what I would love to wrap up with is for people to understand why this matters so much to you. I mean, on the surface, it could be you're a cool human doing great things in the world, and you have that very deeply passionate reason why you need to create social change. Could you share with us, in as many words as you need to, tell us about why this is your life's work? Where did this come from?
Well, I come to the realization, maybe I wrote about that in the book. I kind of forget which stories made it to the book and which didn't. But it became very obvious to me that human beings don't develop mental illness in their doctor's offices, and they don't get cured or recover in their doctor's offices either.
Mm-hmm.
The clinicians are extremely important and a very, very important factor in the recovery. But people recover out there in society. They recover out there in the workplace, in the virtual workplace now.
Mm-hmm.
And when there are no moments or opportunities for people to connect and continue down that path of recovery between medical appointments, recovery is virtually impossible, definitely much more difficult. And now what is really neat to see is 20 years into my work and the company's work, is we're seeing the healthcare system turn to these solutions as a complement to what they've been doing for hundreds of years and decades, right? They are now implementing these social support programs inside their inpatient units. Why? Because the evidence is showing that patients recover better, faster. The recovery rate is higher. The relapse rates diminish. And so if clinicians are realizing this in 2015 up to now, then organizations need to catch up now. They need to catch up and realize that social support is as important as that clinical care that they so want their employees to draw in. So I say to leaders, do not abdicate your responsibility to change your organization, to create that social support environment within your company, within your organization, your university, for your students, whatever you're doing, because those days are gone. Keep those clinical assets, keep those services, but add that social support length. It is transformational.
And you don't have to go through the trauma of war like you had to go through to be able to create this movement and realize the lack of support that really, was the beginning part of your journey. It was the journey before this mental health journey that really, I think, was such a powerful part of the story, and why I really wanted you to be on this in this blog here. Thank you so much for the work that you do. We'll make sure that folks know how to reach out to you below. What's a quick website though that you could share with us in case people just cannot wait to read what's below and they want to reach out to you right away?
Supportyourpeople.com. Very easy. Supportyourpeople.com. And I'll send you other links, Sarah. And
Awesome.
There you go. But that's easy to remember. Yeah.
That is easy to remember and exactly what it is all about. So
right on.
Perfect
Okay.
URL. Yeah. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you
today. And thank you for what you're doing in the world.
All the best.